Okay, so turns out I was wrong the last time, and there is another Aardman CGI TV series, and I'd never heard of it.
Mostly because it was broadcast on Cartoon Network and I didn't have that channel growing up.
But after seeing it, I can safely say I wasn't missing out on much. The plot is nothing too special. It's set in a time that resembles 70s exploitation kung fu movies, but all the inhabitants are anthro-animals, and it focuses on the three most skilled chicken martial artists fighting against their evil fish arch-enemy. Basically, it's the plot of Super Duper Sumos but with chickens, though none of these cocks have the gumption of Master Chicken from Kung Fu Panda. I will concede this is far from the worst show Aardman has ever made. It's nowhere near as annoying as Angry Kid and not as blisteringly unfunny as Planet Sketch, but it's nothing really to celebrate over. It's just a generic action kid show with decent animation and occasionally a decent joke. The animation reminds me a lot of the 2012 TMNT series, especially due to it being martial arts related, but this is clearly nowhere near as good in look, or writing for that matter. It's certainly decent animation, and the style does have a little bit of the Aardman flair to it, and I can admit on a technical level for the time it is impressive, especially compared to Aardman's previous CGI show attempt, but it's nothing all that special now. I do appreciate how stretchy and animated it is. It can get a little grating with them having movement for the sake of movement, which can get annoying, but at least it's well made, and I like the textures and art style. It's very unique for Aardman and has a very stylized feel to it, even if it does look incredibly early 2000s, though this came out in 2007, so it was a bit out of date even when it came out. But hey, it does look good and has style to it, I'll give it that. The voice acting's good, I'll give them that as well, and some of the characters have different voices in the UK version, such as Chucky Chan, yes, seriously, and this guy has nowhere near the skills of Rugrats Chucky Chan, who is voiced by Rob Rackshaw in the UK version, who you may recognise as James from Thomas the Tank Engine and Professor from The Secret Show. The characters themselves are nothing really that sticks out with you. They're pretty typical Saturday morning cartoon archetypes. The cool black dude, the tough tomboy, the sometimes wise, sometimes goofy mentor, the weedy kid, the brat, and the egomaniacal big bad. But they're by no means annoying, and they do have some decent lines now and then. Also, the bad guy is voiced by Paul Kaye, aka the voice of Vince from Mongrels, and what I wouldn't give for Vince to be in this. I could only imagine he'd have some strong words for these chickens.
Chickens, back where they belong. Chickens, all the way to Hong Kong.
All the way to Hong Kong, indeed. I also want to say Rocky came up with that joke, and I am internally happy that she did, because I'm sure I would have missed that and kicked myself for doing so. Beyond that, I don't really have much to say about this. Like I said, it's just a typical Saturday morning cartoon that's done a bit tongue-in-cheek, but even in that description, there are better shows like that from this generation, like the original Ben 10 and Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. If this show was around when I was a kid, I can't imagine I would have been that interested. Granted, I was growing out of cartoons by that time, but I remember a lot of very mediocre shows like this coming out around that time, like League of Super Evil and Freephonics, and I didn't really care much for those back then either. Like I said, it's not a bad show, but nothing I'm going to come back to anytime soon, and Aardman have done much better stuff with less, which we'll be seeing plenty of next time.